All right. So I know we're kind of stuck right now. If all the kids are stuck in the house, if the weather is nice, we have an outlet. And just my strong advice to you is to, if you can take them outside, if you do have a backyard, and even if you have a trampoline in your backyard, this is the time to use it. Okay, so a lot of our kids are having a really hard time being trapped inside the house. So the energy levels are increased. They also stuck in front of the TV and the iPads and whatever else, just because we as parents are balancing our remote working abilities now, and our as well as school and homeschooling, whatever it is. So the kids inevitably end up spending a lot more time in front of the computers and TVs. For most of our kids, that type of screen time is actually not super beneficial. Obviously, depending on what they're watching, some educational videos are great, but those like really high intensity cartoons with very vivid colors can become overstimulating and very over arousing to our kids, and that will bring the arousal level up. And then when you turn off that TV or turn off the tablet, you're going to have a very unhappy child. Does that sound right to parents? Yes. Does that sound like a familiar story? Okay. So I strongly recommend that I'll be a hypocrite if I tell you just don't give them the iPad, right? Like, we're not gonna not do that. That's silly. But what I do recommend is actually scheduling it in blocks. So, and giving kids a timer. So there's an expectation that here is a timer. You're gonna do this for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we're going to be off, and then we're gonna go outside. Okay, so you have to balance you have to have the ability to balance between your screen time and movement time, because otherwise what's going to happen is your kiddos are they're not going to be in a happy place, and you're not going to be in a happy place because they're going to be bouncing off the wall. So ultimately, really, if the weather is nice, if you have the ability to give them movement breaks in between the iPads and the TV time, please do that. So they also, like, super important. I know, and we're all doing the best that we can and with what we got. Trust me, I am aware. But I strongly recommend having at least some kind of a schedule. So like, I know Lauren starts the day with the circle times at like 9:30. I want to say, is that 9:30?
Yeah, it varies because we have siblings, but 9 or 9:30, and we've been talking a lot during our night parent discussions around a schedule and keeping some type of a schedule throughout the day, just for parents and for kids.
So again, so I'm going to reiterate that, but from a point of predictability, so from a point of predictability, it's important for our kiddos to have some kind of a structure. So this way that it's okay for them to do the iPad, but at least they know they have like some kind of a preview or like a visual schedule of what they're going to be doing after, each activity. Because our kids don't, most kids, preschoolers, they don't have a concept of time. So you have these kids that are like spatially kind of lost, spatial temporal kind of lost. So for whatever, for them, like, you told them 45 minutes of screen time and they think that could be forever, but then like that 45 minutes is over and you have to do something next, and they don't know that it's over because they don't have a visual representation or a timer or something that tells them that it's over. You're not going to have a happy child. So having like a schedule and say, okay, this is the schedule, you're going to do this now. Okay, when this is over, I want you to know that we're going to be outside, that this is our plan, or we're going to have a movement break. Okay, like, this is what we're doing. So this way they have some kind of a sequence of events, after movement breaks. So you think about your activities as like, stimulating, calming, stimulating, calming, stimulating, calming. So that's how you kind of want to break things down. So like, for example, a stimulating activity would be like a TV screen. You want to give them the opportunity to run around and burn off some of the energy for the outdoors. Then you're going to bring them back and give them something like a snack or something to eat to calm them down. So that, like, generally, like, that's how you want to like set up your day. So they're going to have something to chew on, something, and then you want to do maybe like a reading activity, or like, you know, some kind of a academic task. So something that they can do coloring, or they can do like a game or puzzle, some kind of an activity for about 20 minutes, you know, 20-30 minutes. Okay, before, again, so that type of an activity, that's going to lower their arousal level. Like, so you have these more organized kids because they just ran around, they had lunch. Now they can have some kind of an activity that is like academically geared afterwards, or like a reading of a storybook, whatever. Afterwards, you want to give them another movement break, because our kids cannot stay still and cannot really be, but you know, kind of unattended for a long period of time, right? So they need those movement breaks. So and this is where you're gonna, you know, you can do like a yoga activity, as Simon says, a red light, green light, 1 2 3, you know. So you can come up with some of those kind of games to support your kiddo. So you know, you can, outdoors, they can run around and be as unstructured as they want to be. Indoors, it gets a little bit harder to do unstructured activities. And also, you can really get out of control really quickly if you're going to keep your kids unstructured doing movement stuff, especially if you have siblings. That can be very fiery, very quickly, you know, causing more damage to your environment than any benefit.
And your sanity, add that in.
What?
And your sanity. If
right, your sanity will go. Yes. Yeah. Okay. No ifs or buts about that.
I think as you're saying that, I think when talking about the schedule, parents have asked last night of when should they do non-preferred academic activities? Should they do breaks? And I know my answer, but I want to hear yours as well. Should they do sensory breaks before or after more non-preferred academic tasks? How should they kind of try, if they're going to go for an academic, when is a good sensory break time to have?
So there's two different approaches to this, right? So a sensory, depending on what kind of a sensory break, like what is your status quo of your child? So you know, if your child is hyped up, then they're going to have a hard time sitting down, you know, before academic activity, right? So you want to be able to bring the arousal level to some kind of a happy medium. So in order to do that, you know, you have to be like, okay, we're going to do like push-ups, we're going to do like, you know, jumping jacks, we're going to make this house go bigger, so you're going to do like wall push-ups, we're going to do like a crunchy snack, blow some bubbles, and then we're going to sit down and do some academic work. Okay, and after we do some academic work, you know, then you want to give them, and like their arousal level is going to drop because they're going to get like that, it's a non-preferred activity, it's going to be hard. So you want to set up a timer so they have a visual representation of how long they're expected to participate in this task. So you set up a visual timer for like 10-15 minutes, whatever you think your child can tolerate. And then when that visual timer is off, you're going to give them a different type of break. You're going to give them a movement break, or ask your child what it is that they would like to do after. It could be like, okay, like almost like from a behavioral standpoint, like, okay, well, you worked this out, now you're going to do like, let's say, I don't know, 10 jumps, and then you're going to go and do a preferred activity. So this is a combination of giving a sensory breaks with timing for expectations. Like, this is your expectation is for you to sit here and do this activity for this amount of time. Then you're going to do like a little movement break to get your arousal level back up. And now you're going to get rewarded by having to do your choice, like your play choice. Does that make sense? Lauren, are you there? Is that what you said?
Here. No, sorry, I had to deal with a child. I'm here. I took my video off. Yes, well, that makes sense. I think that I was just reiterating what some questions I heard from last night. So yes, I think, I mean, do other people have questions that around the schedule part?
Just to play that back, so basically you're saying before like a non-preferred academic activity, like you do some like count, like, you know, jumping jacks, whatever, and like kind of basically get the energy out, and then they sit down, and then you then do something that gets them up again, and then a preferred activity. Is that right, Mila?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. So
Thanks.
the concept is that, okay, if your child is hyped up, you want him to do some heavy work or some kind of like an organizing activity so they can participate in a sit down task. You want to give them a timer, visual representation, so they know how long it is expected of them to participate in this task. Again, like I said, temporal spatial skills for us kids are very like off, like, you know, a minute, less than an hour type of deal. So you want to give them a visual timer as to what that they are expected to be doing this particular task for a period of 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is that you think they can tolerate. Afterwards, when this timer comes off and they're done, you tell them, okay, great. Now, your body looks tired now because you sat there and you did a really great job sitting and participating. What I want you to do next, I'd like you to give me, 10 jumping jacks, and let's see if you can blow 10 bubbles, and like, see if you can play a knockdown game with mommy. See if you can knock me down to the floor. And then afterwards, after we're done playing these little games, guess what? You did such a great job sitting. Let's see, if we can go and you pick a game that you wanted to play with me. Does that make sense?
And I think to highlight that,
yes, thanks.
it can be fun. The activity, like what Mila's saying, can be fun. It's not like a military approach to it. It's really, let's have some fun. Because I think, some of us, like as you're trying to work through the day, the sensory breaks are not just to check off the schedule. It's really, let's have fun with them and let's make it fun. Because as I watch Mila, Taylor, everyone working with the kids, it's about the fun rather than just executing the wall push-ups or whatever.
So I mean, that really is like, play is intrinsically motivating for children. That it is an intrinsic motivator. You tell them like, I'm making you do Supermans because I want to see how well you fly, and if you can really save the planet from this coronavirus, so we can like go back to school and bring life back to normal. And guess what, they'll do their best to do it. But if you're going to tell them like, get down on the floor, lift your arms up, lift your legs up, let's see, like military style, like how long we can do this, you have to do this for 10 minutes, and no, you're doing it wrong, guess what, they're not going to participate with you. So it's really is just kind of like, I mean, it's really hard because we're adults and we're used to dealing with adults, and adults understand each other in an adult language. But kids like play. They like imaginary play. They like pretend play. So you get them to be the captain of a spaceship, or you get them to be any superhero of their choice, and you can probably get them to do anything. It's just really having like that playful approach to it, and that like that engagement. It's really just about like collaboration and engagement. Yes, behavioral strategies do come into play, and I'm not going to tell you they don't. I'm not this like sensory person. I believe there's always a balance between sensory and behaviors. So I do believe in structure. I do believe in setting expectations and having clear guidelines. A child has to know that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to an activity, and typically the beginning is, okay, we start here, the middle is, okay, now you're halfway done through your worksheets, and then the end is like, all right, you're done, we're going to clean up, and then we can move on to something else. So that's for that planning, for that sequencing concepts. That's very important for children to understand that there are like a beginning, a middle, and an end to any task. Do you guys have any questions about that? No. So in terms of,
I think did Yaniv have a question? I just saw them pop up, but maybe not. Okay. Oh, all right.
So in terms of, everybody has different resources, and it's very hard for me to tell you, do this with your child, because I don't know what you guys have at home. So for those of you who are going to be doing telehealth with us, it'll be much easier to give you like consultations and give you resources and ideas. For those of you who do not, can't do it, don't want to do it, it's fine, but I just ask me questions and tell me what you guys have available so I can support you, because I know that, what one person has inside their house is different from what another person has inside their house. So it's very hard for me to just give you like, fix it for everything recipe. Does that make sense? So I am, generally what you do not want your children to do is you do not want them to be static at all times. Your kids need movement. So it can be, cosmic yoga. Have you guys heard of that? The YouTube program called Cosmic Yoga.
I did send out a link to that on the Facebook group. I think it's great. So I forget, I think some kids like it, some kids don't. I don't know, but
it's very visual. It's very visually stimulating. They have videos that are different lengths, but at least they're engaging. So they're not like these boring yoga videos. They have a theme. Yeah, they have a theme, a story, so, and depending on your kids' abilities, they kind of like do it with you, or they can do it by themselves, depending how much they get into it. So
the teachers have sent out some yoga as well to some of the teachers, so that whatever, there's some yoga being floated around.
Yeah. Also, you're also thinking about structured versus unstructured movement, and you're also thinking about vestibular system. So what I do a lot in therapy is vestibular activation. So it's much easier to be done on the swings, and it is much easier to be done on spinning. I don't know if you guys, some of you might have gotten my spinning chair video that I send out. What I do with my kid on an office chair. So so basically it's they need that vestibular stimulation, because for the kids that are not registering vestibular input, those are the kids that are always running around, and they're running around and you cannot stop them, because guess what? Their body doesn't register that running around back and forth. So they need the spinning, they need head out of midline, they need upside down bowling, they need to be spun on a chair while looking down. They need that type of input in order to balance their vestibular system out, so they register the movement and then they can function. However, just for everybody, so everybody knows, when you provide them, if you are going to put your kid on a chair and you're going to have them spin like 5 times or 10 times, whatever they tolerate, one way, and 5, 10 times the other way, what you definitely want to do is give them some heavy work afterwards, or at least a piece of gum. Okay, because you don't want to get them, you want to balance the vestibular input with some kind of a heavy work activity. Does that make sense? So because you don't want them to become dysregulated as a result of it. So those movers, those shakers, you'll see they'll be calmer after they get the vestibular input. However, the kids that their vestibular system is sensitive, those kids are going to become more stimulated, more aroused post that input.
Sorry, quick question. Are you giving them gum while you're spinning them, or?
So after.
After,
if they're, so I, like on my little video I gave, I only, like, my kid is very sensitive to vestibular input, so I only rotate her 5 times one way, 5 times the other, however, again, some kids register it very quickly and then they become very dizzy very quickly. Other kids don't register it, and you can just spin them and spin them and spin them and just want more and more and more, so it's really is just about the balance of heavy work and and that vestibular. So even if your child comes out and is calmer afterwards, heavy work is never going to hurt him. Giving him that piece of gum is never going to make him worse. You know, having him do some wall push-ups is never going to make him worse. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't balance it out, you're taking a chance there that that your kid might be bouncing off the wall a little bit more than usual. So that's why I always say vestibular work is always balanced out by heavy work. You know, it can be, you can take them outside and have them, you know, like rearrange the wood in the backyard, whatever, like the logs, wooden logs. You can go and you can have them, you know, take your laundry and bring it upstairs, the laundry basket. You can have them rearrange your pantry. God knows we all stocked up on toilet paper. Okay. So just, you know, you kind of have to, you know, be a little bit like creative in some of these strategies that you're going to use. But in terms of that heavy work component, post-vestibular is great. If you don't want to spin your kid on a spinning chair, I get it. I don't blame you. You can start with something simpler. You can just do upside down bowling, where your child's head is out of the midline, and so it's basically, instead of bowling forward, you bend your body and you look between your legs and you bowl upside down.
A lot of kids would, or I mean, we've done that for kids at school. So kids, this would not be totally crazy to a lot of the kids.
And those of you like who you know, who see me, see my therapist, you guys also know this.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing that is really great is a rolling activity. So again, you don't want to spin your kid, don't blame you, but you can also do like a log roll activity. So let's say you have puzzle pieces on one side of the room and like the wooden board on the other side of the room. So you grab the puzzle piece and you have the kid log roll to the board and work on, and then you can have them do a crab walk back, or you can have them do, you know, a log roll back, whatever. So you can come up with different animal walks in between. So, you know, you can be creative with these types of things. But again, these types of activities, they give you like a vestibular input as well as grounding, tactile, deep pressure, and heavy work. Plus you're adding a visual perceptual component to it, which is, for a lot of our kids, when you work on the vestibular system, you also kind of have to integrate the eyes and the oculomotor system. And that is going to help you connect all these systems together. Okay, so these are.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
One thing I want to, just for parents to get the big picture, what Mila's talking about log rolling to get a puzzle piece or crab walking back, the teachers do that all day, all the time in the classroom. So I think what's different about being home is we aren't thinking that way, but your kids, when you see them at 2:45 every day, they have had those kind of things. If they're going from the table to the circle time, they are not walking. They are crab walking, they are bear crawling, they are pushing something heavy. So I think it's almost so underappreciated at home because we never do that. But in the school day, and now your kids are home during the school day, those are the types of things that are happening 27 times a day in just little bits and pieces. So I think it's a very important aspect that we as parents now need to integrate in and be really mindful of, because it was part of your kids' regiment every day. And it's really easy. You call them for lunch, don't let them walk to lunch, let them crab walk, or let them push a pillow from the couch to the table or something like that, just to get a little bit of it in little parts of the day.
Yeah, and I just want to add into just another element of a buy-in for that is you can just, the preschool teachers put it on like a popsicle stick and maybe have a picture of the animal. You don't have to go that crazy for them to pick a different animal out of a jar every time, but you can just write it on strips of paper, different animals. And then so it's another thing, like it's a mystery animal where they have to grab into a bag or into a bucket or something that you have and see what animal it is that they have to walk like or be. So it's just another fun way to get them to buy into it too.
I have a question, Mila. So
Sure.
We have Crosby do the sit and spin sometimes at home. Is that good for vestibular, or is that like too much? He goes really fast sometimes.
Do it. I love him. So yeah. sometimes he goes fast, but he's also been like seeing us for a little while. So his vestibular system is in a much better place than when we started. Does he lose balance afterward? Does he fall off it?
No, not
He's
really.
okay. No, he's okay.
Okay.
Also,
so
if you have,
is an
so
okay
do you
way
have
to
a
do
sit
it.
and spin, the one that like he has to
The
like
one that
turn?
he has to do, yeah.
So that one is awesome because it balances out that, so that our whole arm movement stuff balances out. That's the heavy work component.
Oh, okay. So he can just do that, and that would be both.
Yeah, so that's both for him because he has to, it's heavy work to make his body go around while his body is still getting that vestibular input. If you
Okay.
really want to, you know, put a cool picture on a, you know, like something shiny or glittery on the on that middle component on the wheel, so he has to look down, and that's going to give him the registration that much more. So the way you position
while
your
he's
head,
spinning, look down, or after
yes.
he spins?
While
So
he's doing
so with the spinning, what happens is you have to change the position of your head. So if your head is straight, whether you're spinning or walking, it doesn't make a difference. You have to, there has to be a head tilt. So you have to kind of look down to get that, because okay, I'm gonna do you really want me to get into the technicalities of why that's important?
I'll make a note of that. Like, head down. It's good.
Just do it, Heidi.
Just do it.
I'm gonna do it. It's already done. Don't worry about it. Because like what Lauren was just talking about was one of my concerns with Crosby is I know that he's getting so many opportunities in the school day to do his OT and get his heavy work, and I know it's just not the same at home right now, and like he's not sleeping quite as well, and I think it's because he's not as tired. He's not.
I'm gonna tell you right now off the bat, if you like a good sensory diet has to be like a good movement break, has to be, you know, minimum 10 minutes. Like they say between 8 and 15. You know, I say 10 to 15. So it has to have good intensity, good like a decent amount of rhythm, intensity, the duration of time has to be there. So and the frequency. So for example, like it would have to be maybe, you know, 15 minutes 3 times a day plus a really long break outside. Do you know what I'm saying? So this is how you kind of have to structure it in terms of movement. I know that it's overwhelming. You know, but I think what happens is that once you kind of set up a system of how you know, for yourself and for your kiddo, I think it's gonna become easier. It's just
two pieces on that. You reap the benefits if he sleeps more. That's I mean, the whole system works better. One thing I was thinking, Mila, remember when we were back in the church and we didn't have all of the equipment we have now? You kind of gave us a recipe of like backwards bowling, wall push-ups, like you gave us.
Well, you guys, you know, that's what I'm doing in telehealth, literally. Like I loaded up a bunch of resources into this program that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to be creating and working with families, myself and my staff, you know, on making these programs. It's very hard to do this as it has to be individualized. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I can't because what will work for one kiddo will not work for another. And it's not because I don't want to give it to you. It's just because it is an individual, each neurological system is individual. So it's very hard for me to, you know, for example, somebody could only tolerate 3 spins and yet another kid wants to spin for hours. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's hard to me to give you like a strict recipe of like, just do this. And it
but
will
if
be
they did
work.
a consult with you, they could get kind of the regimen.
Yeah. Of course, because that way at least I can see the child, I can see the home, and I can figure out, you know, like best strategies to support everybody. It's just I know that this is rough. Like I know I have 2 kids of my own. Like I know, so yeah, anything that I can do to help, I'm happy to do so. But in terms of all I do want to reiterate over and over again is movement. Have them move, have them do carry heavy work, and also have them do ADLs, activities of daily living. So if you are rearranging something, have them help you, you know, have them be a helper, because ultimately again, that teaches them some kind of a responsibility, you know, but B, most importantly, from self-regulation component, it's motor planning. you know, you're teaching them how to motor plan inadvertently. So having them, you know, help you unload a dishwasher, yes, it's risky. I get it. Like those plates can fly, but you know, like have them be responsible for sorting out silverware. You know, they take out silverware and they sort it out. You know, they could be their responsibility. This is a great motor learning activity. It's a great like activity for sequencing. It's a great problem solving activity, visual activity as well.
And it's a social connection because they are working together. Like I showed a video of me and Marin unloading the groceries, and it was her having to figure out where it goes, but there was a lot of motor planning, but it's a connection and engagement. And you add in the nonverbal problem solving, you get all the stuff that Mila's saying, and then you get the social connection at the same time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, kids will do with you. I was surprised,
Yes.
you know, how much stuff my kids wanted to do with me. I was like, really? Like,
As long as you make it fun.
yeah,
And it's
you
not a
know, like
toughness.
I was doing the laundry. So I did the laundry and then I had them like sort it out with me. I taught them how to fold it. That was very painful. But then we played basketball using socks. So
Yes.
we took like an empty basket and then I lined them up and I gave them, they sorted out their socks and I taught them how to fold it. And then they were doing basketball with their socks. It occupied them for like a half an hour.
Yes.
I was in awe. But like the activities like this is that what makes, first of all, so yes, it's first of all, they're siblings. So it's a nice activity, like a joint activity that they're doing something together, but separate. So it's not super competitive. Second of all, it's a great activity. It's good for eye-hand coordination. Third of all, it's a great activity because you can modify it. You can say, okay, you're doing it looking at the basket. Now turn your body around, do it backwards. See if you can make it in this way. Do it standing on your leg. Do it while your sister has to pass you the sock ball from like upside down, like an upside down bowling thing. You can incorporate all these different types of movements into this fairly simple activity, you know? So it's,
That takes materials. I think one of the things is like parents get caught up in, I don't have the materials at school. The house has infinite.
You don't need, you don't need, I mean, yes, you need, for some kids, you need more materials than others. Like there's no denying it. Like our kids that have a tactile kids that either are seekers or defensive kids, that they require some activities. For a lot of other kids, you know, what we have in a house is sufficient enough, you know, like it's a great, like, you know, is it as good as a, you know, SI gym? No. But do you guys have like a swing set outside? If you do, great, because they can learn how to pump that swing. They can swing on their bellies and learn, you know, again, that gives you that vestibular input where the head is out of midline. You know, you can have them on their bellies and then give you, like, try to give you high fives on the way up. And guess what? That works their trunk extension and works their postural control. So ultimately, it just, I get it because I know that I do this for a living, right? So I see these activities. I know how to break them down. I know how to like make them playful and stuff like this. But I know for parents that are not in that world, it's much harder. But reach out. Like I send my information out to everybody. Like if you have questions, if you need anything, call me, tell me, email me, whatever. I'm happy to help out. I just, you know, I get it. Like it's hard to figure out exactly what to do with your kid at the right time. So if you have mattresses, they're great tools. If you're willing to sacrifice your mattress, that's even better, you know? So like if you don't have a trampoline, having kids jump on a mattress is awesome. You know, they love that, especially if it's like old and has like good amount of spring action going. That's really, you know, a good activity for those, for our kids. Again, having them bring books up and down the stairs, having them, you know, carry water jugs back and forth, do relay races with them. You know, like there is a variety of things that you can do to give them those sensory breaks. It's there for you. It doesn't have to be fancy. It really does not. It does not require you to have 5 different attachments on your swing sets. I swear it doesn't. So I don't know, like ask me questions, you guys, because I can babble on forever.
What questions do you guys have, are things that your kids are struggling with that Mila could problem solve around sensory?
We have a new behavior that we're seeing with Teddy. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I muted you at